Hello everybody. I'm going to go over something that's a big question on people's minds when they get started in beekeeping and start producing honey, is what do you do with these wax cappings? So these are wax cappings that were removed from frames of honey. That'll be something we'll discuss in another video. But I get these into a 5-gallon bucket, and one 5-gallon bucket, when I sort it out, goes into 2 of these 8-quart Presto steamer and deep fryers. These are very nice because you can set the temperature exactly where you need it, because if you overheat honey, you burn it up. If it's not hot enough, it doesn't melt very well. And it's also very easy to clean up because they're non-stick. So I move these in. These 2 8-quart devices will hold the 5 gallons of cappings. And the bottom here, I'm scraping this out because I have honey that settles into the bottom of this bucket. So we're going to move that into the bottom, or over into the deep fryers, where it will melt and it'll settle to the bottom of these as it's melting. The wax and the honey and the debris will separate and form layers, wax being on the very top. So I'm setting this at about just a little bit above warm and 200, just between warm and 200 to get it melted down. I'll be speeding it up here in a minute. There we go. These cappings will melt down. As I mentioned, they'll separate. Now what this is a 5-gallon paint strainer. You can get these from Home Depot. It'll collect any of the larger debris while allowing the smaller stuff to pass through. This is important because if you use a finer filter, like we're going to use with the candles and that, or just in the second processing of the wax, it's going to jam those up immediately. Even if you try to use a t-shirt material, it's going to clog that filter up quickly. This has a lot of surface area, and the holes are just big enough to where we can pass through both of these buckets. So it's a little faster now, and we're going to melt these cappings down. The wax and the honey and the rest of the debris will separate. Honey going to the bottom, then the heaviest debris will separate into the center column, and then the wax on the top. It's amazing how little wax you really get out of 5 gallons of cappings. And these are pressed down into there too. I do drain these cappings to get out as much honey as I can, but there still is a lot of waste, and it's very unfortunate. We're solving that this year. We have a cappings extractor that we're going to be using, so we'll have much drier cappings, so it won't have as much honey waste. While this is melting down, just want to let you know that honeybees, it's the worker bees that produce the wax. The bees that are about 12 to 18 days old in maturity, they have 4 pairs of wax producing glands on their abdomen. They produce these flakes of wax as they're needed. The workers will then collect them and use them to make comb. They'll use that comb to store nectar and honey and pollen for food. It's also where they raise their babies. And so this beeswax actually comes from the bodies of these honeybees. Honeybees are just amazing, aren't they? So this is melted down. We're going to pour it into that strainer. I'm going to turn the heat off. Be careful with these pots. They get very, very hot. And those probes, those devices that put the current in there, they are very hot as well. So put those on things so you don't burn yourself or anything else. This will splash. You can see those chunks going in there, so be careful. I'm wearing an apron, but I've ruined pairs of pants and shirts as well. And don't pour it on your feet, because sometimes it'll run down the side as you're pouring it, so just be careful. It's hot. And that wax sticks. So I'm going to pour most of this in here, and I'm going to wipe out the rest of the dirt later. So I'm just letting it drain through. What I'll end up doing is just undoing the netting a little bit. I'll pull it. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to get that honey is separating from the top. The larger stuff is clogging up the screen, and this is allowing it to pour down a little bit better. You'll hear it like gush as it's pouring down. I got this glove at Meyer. It's a silicone glove that's insulated on the inside. Works great for this. Found it on accident just the other day. So we're going to pull that out of the bucket. Let it drain a little bit off, but we need to get as much of that precious wax out of this as we can, out of the debris. That's where the glove comes into play. So we're going to squeeze that out. You can twist it and pull. I've never broken one of these strainers before, but you don't want to really push it too hard. We don't want to force too much of the dirt through. And you're getting most of the wax. You're going to leave a little bit behind. Even with this glove, it gets pretty hot, so be careful if you start to feel some heat. Move away from it. There we go. Now I'll take this, I'm going to tie it off on the handle, not really tying it, just looping it around a couple times. And just let that drain. Want to disturb that bucket as little as possible while it's cooling off. So I'll move it carefully but quickly, set it down on the floor. Put this on time lapse so you can witness the cooling of the wax. The reason we don't want to disturb that bucket is we don't want to stir up that debris into the wax any more than we need to. I'll let this sit actually overnight. Allows that wax to cool and set, makes it easier to clean up the next day. And if you're doing a lot of cappings, you can reuse these 5-gallon buckets over and over again. I don't really use them for anything else after this. Hard to get them clean out. This nice cool basement floor works very well for helping to cool these cappings off. You can see it start to crack. So after they're set, I take these bags out and we can take this material out. What we call this is slum gum. It's sticky, kind of messy. You might want to wear gloves. Smells a little funny. So we're just going to work it out of here. Everything's kind of stuck together from that wax. What you'll have is this ball. Then we're going to pick that out. Just drop it into the box here. It is sticky. It does have honey in it. So if you do put it in a cardboard box like this, it's possible that some of that will leak through. You don't need to clean this completely. I'm just going to pick off some of the bigger chunks and then turn it inside right again. You don't want to put it in the bucket upside down or the way that it is right now. I have done that before, but then you just get a lot of debris down inside your wax that you were trying to prevent in the first place. And you can take it and just stretch it right back into the bucket again. You'll see that bucket isn't totally clean. This is one of the buckets I had cappings in, and that's fine because this wax isn't totally clean yet. Anyhow, we just want to get most of that out. I would say almost half of what comes out of that cappings is debris and honey. So here's some of those cakes. Sometimes you have to take it out in pieces, like you see over to my side there. I push the bucket on the edges. I try to break it off of the walls. In this case, I'm going to be able to take it out in one piece. I didn't show you in the video, but I do add just about a half a cup of water to the cappings. That helps dilute the honey in the bottom so it's not so thick. You can see how it's very runny right now. Much easier to peel everything out and much easier to clean afterwards. I used to use a little more water, but I found that it granulates the bottom a little bit more of the wax cake, so I lose a little bit more of that and it just seems more messy. But just a little bit of water helps. And we wash it off with hot water. This will get that honey off pretty easily. We're also going to be able to scrub a little bit more of that debris off the bottom that's stuck to the wax. And we're going to deal with that in the second wax melting to get the last of that material out of there. I used to take these out and cut the bottoms off, try to get more of that off, but you don't need to do that. If you do, you just lose a lot of wax and it's really hard to cut that off. So that's what 5 gallons of cappings looks like. Beautiful. Smells amazing. So after this, I just need to clean out that bucket. It's got a lot of honey in that in the bottom, so we run more hot water. I get in there, I scrub it and break it loose. And you'll see I do everything in that bucket. I don't really want to wash all that debris down that sink. So after that, I can just rinse it. Here's those cakes. I bust them up with a hammer. They crack apart pretty easily. If If you have a hard time breaking them, you can put them in a deep freeze for a while and then they'll shatter even easier. So we're on to the second melting. The first one just had those Prestos. This one's a little different. They're the same type of thing, but there's valves in them. I used to use the valves for the cappings as well, but there's so much debris it clogs them up. So I got two separate ones in order to just pour over the side. These though, I will pour them out of the valve. So we're going to heat it up. Same rule applies. We do not want to overheat this wax. So I put it up to just under medium. Or there's a setting that's warm, and I put it onto the top of that warm, and eventually I'll ease it up to just under 200. And it melts down. It melts down a little quicker. Obviously this wax will be much cleaner this time, but it does still have some debris, and that's what we're going to filter out. Looks amazing and smells amazing. Just got to practice a little patience. The other thing that darkens the wax though, it isn't just the temperature, that's how long it sits in these pots. So don't get caught up into a movie and forget about them. I have done that, and then you get very dark wax. The dark wax is still very usable, it just doesn't look as nice. There we go. If you give it a stir once in a while, that definitely helps speed it along. Just scraping off the stick. Try to save as much of that wax I can. It'll build up on there. Alright, so now for the filter, after we cover this up, and for the filter that I'm going to pour them through, we're going to use this this ring thing you see down there. What that is, it is a deep fryer cone filter stand, and these are deep fryer cone filters. I've been using this for many years, and you can use these filters. Those paper filters are good for, I don't know, a couple pots. You could probably get 3 or 4 pots out of it, but they do get dirty pretty quickly still. This will make very clean wax for you, for any type of cosmetics you might be making, candles, or anything else. I do actually filter it one more time before I put it into my products though. It doesn't really catch much on the next filtration, and you may not need to do it. So I just set it up over the pot. Now we're going to pour it through. Again, be very careful. Everything's very hot. You can buy those wax melters. This one is by Soy Light Candles. Found them on Amazon. I think they have a website as well. Vevor, I saw, has wax melters that look like a more advanced version of these. I would really like to try one of those. They have like a 10-liter one that's pretty big. I wouldn't use that for cappings or anything though, but probably really good for the last stage when you're actually producing stuff. I'd want to keep that one really clean. These are also nice because they're just so easy to clean. They're wide, you can get your hand in there real easy to wipe them out. So now we just got to let that go through the filter. It takes a little bit of time, move it out of the way. Now we're going to pour these molds. The 1 pound and 1 ounce molds you see in front here, those I get through Man Lake, but you can find those at other places. Made of silicone. You can fill them up, and you got 1 pound, 1 ounce. Easy to remove. A couple of those molds are probably 10 years old. Last a very long time. They are kind of expensive though. I want to say they were around $35 for the 1 ounce molds, around $40, $45 I think for the 1 pound molds. And then those other molds you see, most of those I got at Salvation Army. That pink one back there is a cake mold, which I like quite a bit. And the rest of them are just varieties of muffin molds and candy molds. So you can get those very, very cheap if you're not particular. I sell wax, so it's nice to have the 1 pound and 1 ounce blocks that are labeled as such. But those other molds work fantastic. You can get them for almost nothing. So we're just going to pour those, fill them all up, let them cool. I would say if you let them cool an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's enough time before you can break them out of the mold. Just be gentle with them, especially those bigger blocks. They are pretty warm still. They won't burn you, but it's just they can stick together, or if you apply too much pressure to them, they'll smush. Most people just let their cappings go to the garbage, or they have plans for it, but they never really do anything with it. It is such a valuable resource. You can do so much with your beeswax. Make lip balms, candles, salves. Use it to fix squeaky hinges, zippers. Or you can just sell it to people that are crafters. It's a very valuable resource. As you can see, it's kind of intense in order to get the work done to it, but it's worthwhile. It's a beautiful product. And it's such a shame to waste anything that the bees put their time, energy, and lives into. I think as stewards of the hives, we actually do need to utilize the things that they provide for us and not waste anything. So now we're just removing everything from the molds. You can see how it comes out so easily. You can use mold release sprays. If you do get a mold release spray for your candle molds or something like that, you can get 100% pure silicone. I recommend that. There are some chemical mold release sprays, but it is not necessary to use those. We don't want to put anything toxic or dangerous into our wax. I shot this in January, going into February. It's the time of the year when I have some time on my hands to take care of things like wax projects and crafting, before we start getting busy around March, April with bees. So you can see this wax is very clean right now, and you could probably just go right into your crafting with it from this point. But just to be safe, I do put it through one more filtration. These are my chocolate bar molds these are my very first molds that I got. They're very useful because you can break off little pieces, which you're just making a few lip balms and smaller recipes and that. These are fantastic. And there we go. I thank you so much for watching. If you wish to buy beeswax or honey, you can go to spencershoney.com and you can get it from there. You support me and my bees and all that we do. It smells amazing. It looks amazing. It feels so good to work with the bees and to be able to produce such good things. So I wish you all abundance going into spring here, and if you keep bees, I keep you in my prayers, and maybe be in mine as well, and you have a great harvest in this coming year.